Hey everyone, welcome to the Data Insights podcast. Today we are honored to have Dr. Mahendra Bhandari as our guest. Dr. Bhandari is a visionary leader in the field of robotic surgery, serving as the Director of Robotic Research and Education at the Vattikuti Urology Institute, Henry Ford Hospital for over 16 years, and as the CEO of the Vattikuti Foundation, a Michigan-based nonprofit for the past 12 years. With over 5 decades of experience as a urologist, kidney transplant surgeon, and global advocate for robotic surgery, Dr. Bhandari has pioneered innovative surgical procedures and championed accessible, cutting edge medical technologies for emerging economies. His recent research explores artificial intelligence applications in urology, including predictive models for surgical complications and AR VR enhanced interfaces for kidney surgery. Dr. Bhandari is not just a surgeon but also a mentor, a researcher, and consultant, helping shape global healthcare strategies and guide startups in disruptive medical technologies. Join us as we dive into his incredible journey, insights into AI driven surgical innovations, and the future of healthcare. Welcome, sir.
Thank you, Arya. Thank you for inviting me.
Sure, sir. So, can you tell us a little bit about the journey in robotic surgery and healthcare innovation? What inspired you to focus on AI and data-driven technologies?
See, robotic surgery is just a corollary. My mission is much more bigger. Having learned surgery, sorry to say, through accidents and taught through accidents, AI excited me way back about 7, 8 years ago when I had my first Tesla. And I was amazed by the possibilities. At that time, full auto driven package was not there, but still lane changing, parking, and it impressed me. And immediately I thought it would be amazing to improve patient outcomes. Why these models cannot be used for human beings? This was a theoretical, so to say. When I studied these things, and then I said, no, I have to be in it. And then at that time, I partnered with Ready Minds and met Madhu and Anubhav was working at that time. And we did some really quality work. And my job was not to end in a product or create a what you call a startup like you are doing at a young age. My job was to understand it. And I realized in the game that outsourcing is no way to understand the data science until you are in it. It is something way beyond collaborations. If you are doing coefficients or if you are doing uh, the unstructured data science, you may not do it, but you need to know what the guy is doing because he needs your constant help. And that's we learned together with Anubhav. We failed miserably, but we learned even in failing. So that became my passion. So my passion is how could we use validated, accurate predictions while dealing with real time patients? How could we
Mhm.
make surgery safer for the patient even when a novice is operating? How machines can really control the surgical whim by alarming him. Like there are robots like Mako robots. They really guide the surgeon. They are decision support systems. And
Mhm.
that's why I went from one to other and I experienced, and now I work with really cutting edge groups working on human digital twins and exciting metaverse technologies and telepresence surgery and newer robots. So I think mine is not a focused journey like yours. Mine is a journey where I can really understand and then really make interpretations of my own on a realistic way, not to be swayed away by the hype created there. You look at gaming, you look at Amazon or a business intelligence, you look at the success of, as I said, the self driven car, and you think, but healthcare is a totally different ball game. And the biggest thing I understood in this journey is that our data, sorry to say, is not conducive for model building. Moment we talk of the structured data, organized prospective studies, numbers are never more than thousands. So it's not even fit for modeling. When we talk of, uh, as I said, 98% of data is unstructured. And 98%, I'm sorry to say, you will find my colleagues as literates but illiterates, egoic illiterates. They are not willing to believe they don't know anything on that, but I know that they know nothing. The
Mm-hmm.
data today, whether it's EMR or HIS, is being used only for two purposes. One is to regulatory purposes. Another is the longitudinal management of these patients when you need the past record. It is nowhere close to building AI predictive models. The very fact we don't have a culture of real time data, our data is very scanty. Our data is not, veracity of data is not good. So these are the learnings when I could be realistic where to use it. And then I'll tell you my experience about LLMs and all as you go, because there's no area I leave unutilized and practiced as the technology comes.
Right. Right. Thanks for that insight, Dr. Bhandari. So talking about like data, how has data transformed the field of robotic surgery and urology in recent years, as per your experience?
To be very honest, it hasn't transformed at all. I'm sorry to say.
Mm-hmm.
If you see the population of urologists, a minuscule of them understand, and further minuscule of them are really applying. We do have a lot of publications on predictive models, good performing models, but my endpoint is until it becomes an effective clinical practice tools, we are talking of a process. So most of
Mm-hmm.
the effort is to publish these models. But mine is, me and Anubhav, what we try to do is, can we create a real-time decision support tool with the human feedback loop, which makes the model robust? We are not going to make our decisions dependent on them, but can we be guided on that? So I think it's a very dismal situation as I see. Yes, there are specialties like heart failure models and diabetic retinopathy models, and they have been way ahead. But if I see the FDA has cleared, I think, close to 70 tools, but I don't see them in the clinic.
I see. I see. Can you share some examples of how predictive models or AI-driven analytics have improved surgical outcomes in your case?
Yes, I'll tell you. We published our first paper on mimic data too because we really wanted a data conducive of this. Mimic is a publicly available database wherein there is ICU data. And we wanted to predict 7 days mortality,
I see.
right? And in this, we did another thing that we used the unstructured data, handwritten notes by the doctors and applying NLP techniques and compared them. You know, besides about, I don't remember exactly, about 5 million data points increased, the performance of model went away up by about 6 to 7%. The models performed well. That was our first thing, and we were very excited about it, that what it would be for patients and doctors and the hospital administrators if we can predict that 80% of these patients with this profile are going to die within 5 days, right?
Mm-hmm.
We
Right.
could do that. But when it came to the last part, I said, how do I apply it in clinic? This data was one time. It was not a real time data environment. There was no effective channel to update that data. So this model died in a publication. We couldn't do it. Then the
Mm-hmm.
next set of learning came. We said, let's use our database. We maintain a database on robotic surgery procedures. And again, these are the things you would know, but we learned hard way because there was nobody to tell us. I'm talking of 6 years ago. Very few people, NG Nagel from Stanford and all had done some work on predictive modeling. So we learned hard way through, and we did very fairly clean database on partial nephrectomy. And I wanted to predict two questions I wanted to answer. 30 days morbidity of these patients and intraoperative complications. If I could
Mm-hmm.
predict in a patient and a particular tumor that this tumor is going to bleed, I can do extra precautions. I may even give up that surgery, or I may do a different approach to surgery. Now, after we built the model performed again well and we published it because in those days, now journals have no appetite for well performing models until they see that they have a clinical value.
Mm-hmm.
So when we looked at that and we found that we are stupid because 1% complication, if it's 1% literature reported complication, and we are trying to answer that question in 2000 patients,
Mm-hmm.
it's not going to be a good model. Then we realize, and I stopped this work of predictive modeling because we don't have access to 100 years of data of Mass General or Harvard or Hopkins, or for that matter. We don't have access to that, or Mayo Clinic for that matter. And that's
Right.
why I said I have understood it, and I have understood more where the predictive model would not work.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not worth the time and effort trying to take care of sitting with them for overfitting of the model and so many technical issues we had to handle using different networks and comparing them head to head. So I think it is, and we were doing on our own, so costs become also enormous about developing these models. And so I think all I would like to say that I'm using this practically. I lecture every month 2 to 3 times in gathering, and I use my knowledge to tell these people that
Mm-hmm.
models, you guys have the capability to build models if it can work for American Express or Microsoft or Tesla. The same technology it is there. It doesn't segregate from the kind of data. So the bottleneck is data. And though I am accusing my colleagues, those who are not aware of the database, the data source is them. Those 1% of them who know about AI value are not the sources of data. So I tell them that you don't have to have interest, you don't have to understand. You would be ultimate beneficiaries if there are effective clinical tools. You'll save a lot of costs, you'll save time, and you will be much more accurate in taking patient decision making. So at least learn to the culture. And all they
Mm-hmm.
can do is two things. One is consciousness in collecting the accurate data and not being stingy. Collect everything possible, not 3 or 4 data points which they are used to do that. And if you do that, and if your data has a value, I can guarantee there would be people who would be willing to invest a lot of money if you have a data which is AI conducive.
Right. Right. That's interesting and thoughtful of you to share that. Thanks again. So you have worked with AI applications in urology like extensively. So what are your the biggest challenges and opportunities you have encountered in integrating artificial intelligence in surgical practices?
Biggest challenge is the data.
Okay.
Today, robotic companies are pumping tons of money, but they are starving of data. Data has only one source, and that is the hospitals and the doctors.
Mm-hmm.
Now, gold mines are India and China. China is making use of its data like anything because their priority is different. In India, the worst thing has happened. I work a lot in India. Is that data consciousness is there? They know that I have a gold mine,
Mm-hmm.
so they have become possessive of it.
Right.
But they are not using it so far, despite the talent. Not using from the point of view of building effective models which rest of the world. I'm not talking of exceptions. There are groups like Apollo, Narayan Health. They are way ahead. They are aware of it. There are other hospitals. But by and large, they are not using the data and they are not. We went we built a platform which we call the ground truth factory, and wherein we said that this is purely on academic purposes, like we share the data. No commerce is
Mm-hmm.
involved. If the commerce is involved, and then you based platform, ReadyMind ground truth factory, and all you do is a very user friendly tool because our data is in gigs and gigs because of the videos we were using, computer vision work, or images we needed of CT scan. So it was very initially we encountered that they had no time to upload these things, but we made it user friendly. And we even said that we didn't accept anything until they had ethical clearance from the hospital. And we said, you partner it with us in building the model, and we will not use any your data is logged in your locker. You can't. So we had tremendous success in having those videos, but then the resources were not there to build this model.
Right. Right.
So the bottleneck, to answer your question, is bottleneck is two. One is understanding the real value, and you guys need to tell them what are possible things and assure them. Because coming from industry, it's always suspected. Coming from US, it's always suspected. Moment you open a mouth about it, they think they've come to steal our data.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
if you can comfort them, see, let me tell you, Arya, this interface of commerce with academics is not going to go. If you look at
Mm-hmm.
the current data, most of the quality AI work has moved out of institutions, academic institutions, to entrepreneurs and the corporates like Microsoft, Google, and alike. So, moment they go, they cannot assure that they are not going to make money.
Right.
Until you build a model when you bring equity from them and say, look, let us upfront do it. It's not that gradually, ignorance wise, you suck them into Google what it is. Because they have learned it now. So if you really are well meaning, you have to go with a clear plan and tell them that, look, this is our interest and this is shared interest like any business we do.
Right. Yeah.
Simply, otherwise, it's an unequal partnership. You know about the value, they don't know about the value. You want their data, and they won't give you.
Mm-hmm.
So, the dialogue has to be absolutely transparent and upfront,
Mm-hmm.
including that if models perform, because there are technical challenges which now have been solved. That, say, for example, consents of the patient.
Right.
And after building the model, ex-patient's lawyer goes and say, no, I don't want my data to be used.
Mm-hmm.
How are you? Even if you are technically able to withdraw that case, can you prove that that case the model has not learned from?
Mm-hmm.
And the only answer is if these guys are also committed to development of science in the favor of improving patient outcome, they will be on the board. Currently, they don't have that point.
Mm-hmm.
And second thing is nobody's hospital, I know high ups very much, nobody is willing to spend on this area because it is not a revenue generating area for them.
Right.
Research, corporate hospitals are not really interested in research. And government hospitals, you can't touch them.
Mm-hmm.
So I think to give a long answer to your short question is only two bottlenecks: awareness on the value of this data and importance of this science to go ahead. Everything is resource linked. If I can predict this patient is going to go on the third day, my model performs 90%. It means a lot. Even if I tell this patient's mortality is 90%, whatever we may do on ICU, I can talk to the family and explain to them. As much as I would like to save, their decision making would be much more smarter and practical rather than emotional.
Right.
Now, here we are talking of two fluid things. He may survive, he may not survive. I don't know. What should I do? I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. This is whole medical science. You would have experienced this and relate with it when you go with your friends and relatives. This cancer, and then you give a generic information to them. As per the literature, 60% of them survive for the 5 years. Now, I'm not interested in what happens to the whole world. You tell me what is going to happen to me, but we don't have an answer until it. You won't have an answer till you build personalized predictive model.
Mm-hmm. Right. Got it. Thanks for the insights. Like talking about the data and just continue your talks on that. So what's your perspective on, future of AI powered platforms like Datawise to enable healthcare teams to interact with and leverage data?
Oh, yes, there's a tremendous thing, but let me tell you another point. Correct me if I'm wrong. So far, I have yet to understand that any AI based product is making profits. There is tons of investment in that. Money comes from two sources. One is service, another is research. I have spoken with a lot of high ups. So if you try to see even open AI for that matter,
Mm-hmm.
amount of resources in computing they are putting, I don't think the balance sheets are in black and white. So one thing you need to realize why people are putting tons of money. I am part of a private angel investor group, Kiritsu. Every month we have 5 to 6 high class products presented to us startups for investment proposals. I have found that 80% of them are healthcare and 70 to 80% are AI driven.
Mm-hmm.
And they get investments because people have a lot of faith in AI. AI is not wrong. If we are not able to effectively use it, we need to introspect ourselves. So it has a great potential. It has a great potential. Only thing is, here is a shape technology we call in business jargons that there is no suddenly, it's not a demand in the market where you can go and meet the demand and make money. You have to generate the demand, you have to shape the market by trying to
Mm-hmm.
say, look, this is what is the benefit. This is where you will get benefit in terms of patient outcomes or what you call revenue gains or whatever it is, but you need to educate them rather than expecting them. But it is changing very soon. And I would say, very frankly, the whole scenario has changed since OpenAI and these LLM tools, generative AI is there. It has changed. Otherwise, it used to be so painful to create what you call supervised model, computer vision models, labeling the data, dynamically labeling the data, validating the labels, building the models, resource and time intensive. But
Mm-hmm.
and which very few will understand when you present in a conference. There was no
Right.
way you could have talked to common men, but today it is like Google, it is like email, it is penetrating fast. So I think I am very hopeful of all I said was pessimistic because I know deep inside what's happening in our profession, but I am very hopeful that it will change and it will change for good.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Thanks again, sir. So, like as a mentor, like how do you guide young professionals in leveraging data and artificial intelligence to, carve out impactful careers, especially in medicine?
You're right. Every lecture I give, I have two or three students at different level or doctors very keen to work with me. And out of, out of 20, one or two are really interested in investing in this. And my advice to them is don't be in hurry to publish papers. Understand it. And as if, correct me, I would ask a counter question to you. My advice to them is don't bother about how these models are built and how do you really coding the things, or you don't have to do all that. There are people to do it. But you need to understand in order to make, if Arya is working with me, then I have to know more about domain knowledge as well as database to make him to do well. And for that, I tell them that you do courses on data sciences. I'm myself doing a course with Stanford. I'm already 1 week. I'm learning Python. I'm learning the basics of statistics and unstructured data and everything because until you really begin from a base,
Mm-hmm.
you cannot effectively collaborate. So, my advice to the people is first get beyond or deeper to the yellow journalism where AI has done this and AI has caught a thief and AI has done this and all. That's just exciting for a common man or somebody who is just reading a news. But if you are serious about contributing and exploiting AI tools to healthcare, first you understand the data. And data
Mm-hmm.
science is the main thing. How do you make use of the data? What is a good data? How do you impute the missing data? Once you know that the journals don't accept imputation of data, then immediately you go into veracity of the data. Why the hell I have missing data?
Mm-hmm.
Invest more on collecting accurate data because the models would be as good or bad, you'll agree, as the data is.
Thanks again for that insight. And so, finally, doctor, what excites you the most, like, about the intersection of data and healthcare in the next, few years, like 5 to 10 years?
See what I said. I worked on predictive models. We worked and published on computer vision models. We published on the virtual reality models and all. But last two papers really impressed me was we worked on LLMs, Chat GPT we used for stone clinic patients and compared them with the doctors. It's a very well studied. We published it in Endourology, one of the prestigious journals. And we learned one thing that uh, it's a wonderful combination. Doctors don't have authenticity in when we say. When we talk of a complication by, we don't know exactly. ChatGPT overdid it. Even
Mm-hmm.
if there was a 0.0001% death, it will say that because that's what data speaks. So I think what I learned, one thing was clear, like auto driven cars, level 5 is out when cars would move. Similarly, I'm very, very clear. However, the models perform, you talked about hallucinations being taken care of. My view is very contrarian. If you are looking for big and big and big data, till really you come into a small database and high predictive models. Because if you can't control the data sources, definitely there would be pollution of the data and there would be something. So I'm very impressed on one thing, that if we really combine, and what we did was like frequently ask questions to the doctors, that when the stone would recur or not, should I have this complication, should I kidney be damaged or not. All those questions are better answered by ChatGPT, provided you rectify those problems in the model where it model overdoes or it's inaccurate in terms of for a patient conversation. Because really you can present to them graphic, and then what we were focusing on, how do I save the time of a busy clinician? If you, before they come to the clinic on stone, a nurse can make them to sit on a computer and answer all his questions, which are validated questions, answers. And then when doctor comes, then doctor can really empathetically answer the question which still remain in his mind. And if I save of a busy clinician 1 hour for his family, it would be millions of dollars worth in a year. So I hope that these are low hanging fruits which you should really work. But only thing, the younger people like you, if you ever think of working in healthcare, think of the patient. Otherwise, you are in a rat hole of research. Anything